Today, we're going to be a little bit narrow in our discussion, being very, very focused on the virtual family office. Now, that's a loaded phrase. One, a lot of people may not even be sure exactly what that means, and I don't blame them because it doesn't really have a classic, like many things in the family or single family office world, does not necessarily have a classic definition. However, how we define the virtual family office, and Mark and I have some different opinions about it, is going to be very important to understanding if it's something that could be valuable to you as a family, as an executive, someone looking to be active and involved or advised to in the family office community. And I do believe, and I believe Mark similar as well, that the community of the so-called virtual family office is really about to take off. And Mark, and this is going to be a little different for the audience as well, although certainly Mark is our featured star today over the next hour or so. Mark is also going to be asking me, he's going to be reversing the tables a little bit, asking me some questions. So we're really going to get multiple perspectives today on a VFO acronym, of course, for a virtual family office. Mark, if you don't mind, why don't we start with you, with how you would even define something that doesn't have a classic definition. To you, what is a virtual family office?
Well, Angelo, thank you for the kind introduction. And the fact of the matter is that as we both know, family offices have multiple definitions, multiple objectives, and ultimately, I think, a very different future. As we both know as well, there are any number of single-family offices around the world. If the statistics are to be believed, there are at least 10,000 single-family offices and any number of high net worth individuals and families that have some variety of a family office. If one layers in as well the information that was provided in the WealthX transfers report from last fall, that over the next decade, there is going to be a wealth transfer of at least $4 trillion, most of which is going to happen in the United States. That's going to spawn any number of new family collectives and potential family offices. So to your question specifically as to how one defines a virtual family office, I see it really as an extension of the family when the single family office concept, as we both know it, the brick and mortar structure, doesn't quite fit for the family. And the multifamily office, and we know a number of very, very distinguished and competent multifamily offices, that too doesn't really ring true with the family. So the virtual family office being a virtual construct, I think is going to continue to evolve. I see it as a hybrid between the standalone single-family office and the much more multivariate multifamily office. But I really see the virtual family office as being an extension of the family to preserve confidentiality and to provide any number of the services that families want and need, really serving four demographics. First, the existing single-family community, whereby the single-family office may not be able to provide all of the services that a family needs and wants going forward, and the need to have an extension of the single-family office to a virtual advisor, a loyal advisor. I see that as being the first leg of the stool. The second leg of the stool will be any number of the new wealth that's created, and they decided that the single-family office, for reasons of expense or bureaucracy or compliance requirements, really won't serve their needs. The third dimension will be the millennials. Everyone much younger than you and I that doesn't believe that the brick and mortar structure is their best alternative will be looking to form alliances, looking to form relationships with key advisors, whether they be lawyers, accountants, advisors like ourselves, that can really fill the void. And the last leg of the stool, where I see the virtual family office taking off, is really with foreign families, okay? Specifically in Latin America, Asia, the Middle East, but also in the traditional BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, where the family office concept is really still in its infancy and may skip the traditional single family office experience that we've had over the last several decades.
In terms of, that's a very good overview broadly of your perspective and a very good one of the VFO. Maybe take the audience through a little bit of the nuts and bolts of what the mechanics or the construct of that looks like. In your perspective, is it simply a smaller single family office with still a traditional location, but tech savvy, but with less employees? Or is it really more a individual of wealth or a family that simply has various outsourced providers and tries to have a little bit of a semblance of collaboration among them?
I think it really revolves around their pain points, okay? The inflection points whereby, and every family goes through this experience, that they have certain issues, whether it be around alignment or cohesion. Wealth preservation and tax efficiencies obviously are the most important and the central function of any family office, whether it be single family office, virtual family office, or otherwise. But I really think it revolves around what does it look like? It looks like the advisor or the group of people that are best suited, best experienced, that can address their pain points, okay? Whether it be around wealth preservation, tax efficiency. It may be the fact that their financial situation has become so murky and arcane that they need someone to sit by them to work through all those issues. It may be the fact that the vision of the family, and a lot of the wealth comes from family business, that the vision of the business and the family have begun to diverge, and they need someone that can help them to connect the dots. In other words, what are the next steps? What are the next pivot points? And it can also be the fact that I like to focus on governance, operations, and succession, that none of those issues have been addressed. And so what it looks like is going to be, to borrow a hackneyed phrase, will depend on each individual family and what they want. From my experience, it's been more along the lines of, who do we know that we can trust? Who do we know that can sit on the same side of the table as the family and give us objective advice and remain loyal to our needs and our concerns?
And will the internal thought process that you would recommend to a family to consider a more classic single family office, totally outsourced to an MFO or banking model, or again, a little bit of the quasi-hybrid model of the virtual family office, how do they kind of weigh the benefits or even disadvantages of each and start to progress to making a decision what could be best for them?
Yeah, I think there are a number of questions that any family is going to go through in deciding what the next step is going to be. I think one of the first questions is going to be, where is the family in the life cycle of its wealth? Is it first generation wealth, or is it multi-generational wealth? Where do they see the family 5, 10, 15 years from now? What's their strategy? Okay, where do they see the road progressing over the next several years? What are their specific financial and personal goals? And I think lastly, it's going to be a question of if there is a next generation, and in some cases there isn't a next generation at all, but a next generation that wants to be involved in the business of the family. To the extent that they're not interested in continuing the business, is the family looking at an exit point? Is it looking for a sale or a public offering or some type of change in the nature of the business? And do the family members really want to belong in that next space? And if the answer to that last question is no, then that's one road. If it's yes, it's a very different road, which involves education. It involves a very, very specific succession plan for the family business. And it can also involve a real soul searching as to whether the family is genuinely aligned with where the leadership of the family, whether it's the patriarch or a more evolved management or leadership of the family, where that group really wants to take things. There's no one answer for all families altogether. It's very much an ad hoc process by which the families decide where they want to be and how do they get there.